What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And this is a rare Saturday video, and I'm doing it because I woke up to some interesting news. It looks like the ESA, the folks who run E3, has leaked everybody's personal information, including home addresses for a lot of people, phone numbers, email addresses. So basically the way E3 works for people like me, YouTubers, content creators, journalists, the way it works, we basically sign up when we give them our contact information, our phone numbers, our email addresses, so that they can then basically give that to the companies that are going to be at E3, and they can contact us to see whether or not we want to come see their game, come play their game, do that kind of thing. So obviously, in order to go to E3, you're probably going to provide them this information. And quite obviously, with a list like this, with over 2,000 people's private information, you would want to be really careful with that. So it was a big surprise when I found out today that the ESA made that available on their website for anyone to click on, anyone to download, just by the click of a button. My phone number, my home address, and a lot of other people's as well. Now, obviously, I'm not going to show you the private information of anybody on this list, but I will show you the people affected by this, the organizations they are with. You have the ABC News, you've got BBC, you've got a lot of YouTubers, a lot of content creators, you got a lot of big organizations. And the good news is, if you're with a big organization, chances are you probably provided a corporate email address, maybe a corporate phone number, and probably a corporate address. But if you're a smaller YouTuber, a smaller content creator, or a smaller independent reporter, statistically speaking, you probably provided your actual information, and that information is out there. You need to be really, really careful. And what's scary about this is this list was available just until yesterday on the ESA website. We don't know how long this has been available. I've been told this list has been up on the website and available as far back as February, and the ESA did nothing about it. Anyone could access this list as far back as February, according to some reports I have heard. I don't know for sure that's possible, but I do know it was available until just yesterday when they finally took it down. That means it's in the hands of pretty much everybody at this point. Now, the ESA has responded to this by saying ESA was made aware of a website vulnerability that led to the contact list of registered journalists attending E3 being made public. Once notified, we immediately took steps to protect that data and shut down the site, which is no longer available. We regret this occurrence and have put measures in place to ensure it will not occur again. The problem with that is once this information is out there, it is out there. It is guaranteed to be archived and shared and spread around. There's nothing you can do about it. ESA, it was your job to make sure this didn't happen. Now, this is the first time it has happened in 20 years, so I'll give them credit for that, but it now has happened, and this is going to impact their bottom line. See, again, the way that E3 works is I'm a YouTuber, and I want to go to E3 to get access to gaming companies and developers and play their video games, and those companies want me to do that as well, and the way that we do that is by going through the ESA and me providing my private information to the ESA so they can pass it on to these companies. And now if I'm at a point that I no longer trust the ESA to keep my information safe, that I'm far less likely to do that. And so to these companies, what is valuable about E3 is getting access to YouTubers like me, Young Ye, and anybody else who shows up to get access to these big organizations like the BBC, and of course journalist websites like Kotaku and those types as well. And so if we're afraid to give you our information, then ESA, you don't serve a purpose anymore. I mean, I've gone to E3 for the last 2 years not to try to make money by reporting on this stuff, though I do report on it. I go to E3 as just kind of like a Christmas in the middle of the summer to get to play some video games and meet some fans and meet some developers and meet other YouTubers and just enjoy the parties. That's the reason I go to E3, and I'll probably go again next year. So you'll still have people like me, but the important people who are there just to report on your stuff, chances are they may very well stay at home and not report. I mean, keep in mind, in previous years, we've seen Nintendo skipping E3 for several years now. This last year, we saw Sony skip it. We saw EA skip it. I mean, there was hardly anybody there other than smaller game companies, peripheral companies, and the big companies that were there. I honestly don't feel like they needed to be there. They could just go ahead and do their own thing in a nearby studio, or they could just go back to tweeting it and posting it online, because honestly, that's how Sony Sony did it, and I heard about most of what Sony has to say. I mean, if you already know about the PlayStation 5, then Sony did its job without having to pay the folks over at E3 or running the risk of any data breach. So whereas this last year was a very underwhelming E3 for everyone involved, I really do feel like next year's going to be even more underwhelming because I think you're going to have a lot less people showing up, in part because of this. And that sucks because next year was going to be a huge E3 with a new Xbox, with a new PlayStation, with all the new games that will be coming out for that and an opportunity to play those systems for the first time. You would think people would be desperate to show up for that one, but now they're going to leak your data. So my recommendation, if you are a fan that plans to show up to E3, if you're a YouTuber or a journalist, make sure that you supply a P.O. box. I have a P.O. box. I spend like $100 a year on it. If you want to send me a card or something, it's P.O. Box 10738 in Fayetteville, Arkansas, 72704. I have my home security taken care of just in case my personal information leaks. I change my phone number routinely, and I have all of my two-step authentication set up to a different phone number just to be safe. I never provide that phone number to anybody. And taking a look at Twitter here, a lot of people are overreacting to this. We have somebody here saying they just yeeted themselves into a giant class action lawsuit. I really don't think that would happen. And honestly, it probably would not directly impact E3 if they did. Surely the ESA has insurance that protects them from things along this line, so I'm sure that's going to be fine. My biggest concern here is the fact that this was kept secret from us for a while. The ESA did not comment on that until very recently. We don't know exactly when this data breach happened, but the ESA would know. I've heard that it originally happened all the way back in February. I don't know if that's true, but even if it was just a few days, the ESA did not do its job and let me know and other people that attended E3 that we might be affected by this. And that is unforgivable, but it gets worse than that. If you deep dive these threads on Reset Era, which is one of the industry boards, you will find out that people have known about this for quite some time, and they are even actively discouraging people to report on this right now. There have been people who's known about this since February, and they just chose not to report on it, not letting other people affected on that list know about it. The gaming industry basically covered this up. And admittedly, they did that because they didn't want everybody who might watch this video to know that that list existed. They wouldn't want you going out to try to find that information. But here's the thing. You, watching this video, you're probably not going to do anything with that information. If you had my phone number, you would probably just text me and say hello, and we would talk for a little bit and trade pictures, okay? But the bad people who would do something with this information, they liked that it was secret, because since it was secret, I wouldn't change my phone number. I wouldn't take any steps to protect myself. They would use my lack of awareness about it against me. I should have been notified immediately as soon as this happened by the ESA. The fact that I wasn't allowed to know is infuriating. But according to the people reporting on this, up until yesterday, that list was accessible to anyone who clicked that button on the ESA website. Thank gosh, Sophia Narwitz blew this entirely up so that they did remove it, but the ESA completely dropped the ball here. I can't believe this. Now, fortunately for me, my name is not on this list. Not that my information isn't publicly available. My home address is pretty much on the internet and has been for a few years. My phone number gets leaked every once in a while. I'll leak it myself on accident every once in a while, and then that number gets changed relatively quickly. I've only ever had a few people show up to my front door. Most of the time, it's been fans, and they've been relatively friendly, though you can't really be friendly back because they're showing up at your private address, so that's not something you can comfortably do. But I've also had one guy show up who was angry about something I said on a podcast. But relatively, it's really not that big of a deal. If your information does get leaked like this, you're going to be okay. And there's a lot of YouTubers and a lot of journalists that are on this list. If this is your first time up to bat, it's scary. It is really scary, especially somebody with an anxiety disorder like me. It can be really nerve-wracking, but after years of my private information being out there, nothing bad has really ever happened. And look, in case this does happen to you, here's some basic advice that I learned when I got my YouTube channel hacked and when my information leaked for the first time. So this is just good information for anybody who ever might have to deal with this kind of thing. First off, create a unique second email address that you don't use for anything other than account password recovery. That way you're not handing out the email address that all of your accounts are handed to. That's how they got me the first time. Use two-step authentication, preferably an authenticator, but if you're going to use a phone number, don't use the phone number that that you give out to everybody. Get a second phone number. There's a lot of services out there that will give you a very cheap phone number for free for the use of this. So it's a very simple idea. Just don't give out the phone number that's connected to your stuff. And when it comes to your personal address, take your home security very seriously. Like if you have a home or even just an apartment, it's not a bad idea to make sure you have good locks. It's not a bad idea to make sure you've got a well-lit neighborhood. It's not a bad idea to pay for some security. Get a Ring doorbell, get some cameras to make sure that you're as safe as humanly possible. Be careful when you open the door. But I think that's good advice for literally anybody because the entire world is crazy. Bad people do bad things. So just be careful no matter who you are. And you can be mad at the people who use this information against you because obviously you should be, but you should make sure you're also mad at the people who leaked your information, the people who are doing nothing about it other than just one small statement. I don't know how the ESA is going to make this up to people affected. And more importantly, be upset at the folks in the gaming industry who knew about this and chose not to report it, or the people who were deleting the reset era threads because they didn't want this information out there. Obviously, they didn't want people to get that information to use it against us, but they also didn't want that information out there so that people like me could protect ourselves. Now, this is all just one man's opinion. I apologize if this is my normal demeanor for a video. I'm really frustrated and really irritated about this, and I can't believe that this is something that happened because it's going to impact not me directly, but a lot of people that I do really genuinely care about, a lot of friends I've made in the industry, a lot of journalists, a lot of gaming content creators. And it's so frustrating. But again, I hope the advice in this video makes it a little bit easier for you. And if you are ever affected by something like this, or you can use this advice to make sure you are never affected by something like this. Guys, thank you for watching. I love you very much. I'll speak with you again soon. It's a strange, scary world.